More images from the day the felon passes on? Let's look into that. Welcome to Scrying Out Loud. My name is Trevor. First off, a huge thank you to everybody who's subscribed to the channel. Thank you if you're a new subscriber, and thank you if you've been subscribed to the channel for quite a while. And anywhere in between, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for liking, watching, commenting on the videos, and sharing the videos. The biggest thing that drives the algorithm is commenting on the videos, sharing the videos, and watching them all the way to the end and hitting that little thumbs up button. So I appreciate all of that. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And if you've donated money to the channel through the Super Thanks, Buy Me a Coffee, or Venmo, a huge, huge thank you. It's all greatly, greatly appreciated. So when I've been scrying over the last few days, I've gotten more and more images around the actual day that the felon departs the planet. And they're all pretty consistent. I do think there's a little bit more things that kind of hint at a timeline as well. So if you remember, the big broad kind of picture was him, you know, having what appears to be a stroke. And so what I saw and what I think is going on. This feels like it happens in a hotel room. Now, I could be wrong about that because I have no idea what the White House residence looks like, and I have no idea what Mar-a-Lago looks like. But this looks like a very nice hotel room, kind of a luxury hotel. Um, and it's like it feels like it's at the end of the day, at the end of the working day, which who knows for him what that means. Um, Sometimes I don't think he does anything, but that's probably a good thing when he's doing nothing. And so it feels the reason why I think it feels like a hotel is there's a big overstuffed, well, not overstuffed, but a big armchair, like with the high arms, and the tufts. And and then there's a desk that's not too far away from that. That makes me think that it's a hotel room. But I don't, maybe that's what one of the rooms looks like. I don't know. And he's, on the desk there's clearly a Diet Coke, and not just one, but like a couple cans of Diet Coke, and um, I think they're all empty, by the way. Um, and then uh, he goes to set in this chair. He doesn't have a jacket on, but he still has a tie on. So that makes me think that this is a working event, that the day's ended. And um, when he goes to set in the chair, like something happens. There's like a twinge, and he's got the remote in his hand, which makes me think that's why I think it's a hotel. But yeah, again, I don't really know. The remote drops, but he kind of doesn't really react to it. He just kind of sits there and he closes his eyes like he's going to take a nap. Uh, and he goes to lean, like his elbows on the tuft of, or on the arm of the armchair, and he goes to lean his head into his hand, and it slips, like his head slips out of his hand, and it kind of jerks him up, but he has a hard time getting to an upright position. Like he can't, like the right side of his body feels like it's not able to move. Or yeah, I think it's the right side. Um, and it's this goes on for what appears to be not a ton of time, maybe a few minutes. Uh, and yeah, he manages to get up. It feels like he can't talk, like he can't really speak or call for help. And as gets up, it's like he just instantly falls forward, and he hits his head on. This part is a little confusing because I think we switched rooms. Like I don't know if he wanders into the bathroom. That part really wasn't clear to me, but it feels like he hits his head on like the side of a bathtub or a sink. It could be the desk. and then falls on the floor, and that's kind of it. It's basically over at that point or shortly thereafter. It does feel like he's not found until the next morning. Now, this could very well be, a situation where the end of the day is quite late. So the next morning, this might only be 2 or 3 hours, right? It feels like this happens in the middle of the night. Um, but of course, the lights are on in the room, so it's hard to tell what the actual time of day is. And um, it feels like the Secret Service comes in. There's a bunch of commotion, um, and after it's all said and done, I can still see the room, and there's blood on the floor, and that remote is still on the ground near the chair. So I think this like it was a very big hurry up, get him out of the room thing, although I'm pretty sure he was already gone. But this also kind of feels like it might not be in the United States, but I'm not really sure about that either because I really don't have any reference frame for what things look like in the White House or Mar-a-Lago. So um that is the way I think he goes. I think it's a stroke that happens when he's in the chair, and then when he tries to push up and get out of it, he might be able to take just a few steps with his right leg dragging behind, and then he falls, but it feels like he can't speak. So he can't really call for help. Um, and like his motor function, like his hands are weirdly postured too, um like his right hand in particular is kind of shaped like this, and it like he can't move it. Like he can't go to put his hand on something, right? He can't open his hand. So again, I'm not a medical expert, so I don't know, but this sure seems consistent with something like a stroke. So I guess the questions I want to ask is when he was in public the other day at the 9/11 remembrance, it really looks like he has like something wrong with the right side of his body. Like he can't move it. And so somebody emailed me and asked me, does he maybe have Bell's palsy or do you think he's having strokes? And I've always thought that he's been having strokes, but I want to look at that um, again. I want to look at the specifically, has he ever had like a reasonably serious stroke? One that required not only medical intervention, but a few days to recover. I think we should ask the question, does he have Bell's palsy? This is, where part of your body gets paralyzed. Um, I also want to look, is he having balance issues? And then I want to look, are things actually worse in the evening? Because we never really see him in the evening. Are things actually worse in the evening? Because I'm getting a sense that that's the case. And then we'll just ask again, is this gonna happen soon, I guess is the way we'll phrase it. So let's start with I guess has he ever had now I've always had images of him having the stroke. This is still very consistent with the images that I have. There's nothing that dissuades me from thinking that anything has changed. Um, these images are getting more often though, or more frequent, I should say, and there's a little bit more clarity to them lately. And when I sit down to try to look at other things, often I'm still shown images of this. So I'm not exactly sure. Sometimes I feel like we're talking about this too much, but part of me thinks that we're supposed to be, because the media is not. Like, I don't understand why the media is not noticing that his lips are weird and things like that. It's bizarre to me. All right, so has he ever had a major stroke? Is he having strokes? What do we need to know here? Is he having strokes? Major strokes. Having strokes, having major strokes. Definitely think he's on blood thinners. I'm getting that same image that I think I've talked about this before of him in front of a medicine cabinet with a bottle of pills. He takes whatever's left of the bottle. I think there's only one pill in it, and then he throws it against the mirror, kind of in a temper tantrum. And um, like he's mad that he has to take these pills. I think these are the blood thinners that are causing the bruising on his hands. Well, I don't think they cause the bruising. I think they make the bruising more prevalent. I think there's actually IVs going in there. Yeah, he's definitely on medication, the Six of Pentacles, giving and receiving of information or things of value. Um, the Nine of Cups, wish fulfillment. Question is whose wish? And the Queen of Swords, logic and consistency. Let's keep going here to see what these mean. If one plan doesn't work, try another. We keep getting the Eight of Pentacles. This is along with the Ace of Swords, the Three of Swords, the Ten of Swords, and the Death card. These are popping up all the time. The Eight of Pentacles is kind of, if one plan doesn't work, try another. And I feel like that's what's going on with the doctors here. They're just trying things. We get emotional messages coming forward, the Knight of Cups at the center of the reading. And here's my card for dementia, the Five of Swords. Now, does he have dementia? I'm not sure, like the textbook definition. I think he has severe cognitive decline, but I think that's because of these strokes and because of the congestive heart failure and other things. Does he have the frontal temporal dementia? He could. He could. Certainly. I definitely get drawn to cognitive decline. I don't know why he's having the cognitive decline, and I don't think that it's that relevant because I don't think that ultimately that's the reason he goes out. Although I do know that that frontal um, temporal lobe dementia or whatever the exact words are can cause balance issues. So that would seem consistent with what I'm feeling. Uh, Seeds have been planted, the Seven of Pentacles. And we get the Judgment card here. And this very much feels like a self-judgment on his part. The statement about his fear of not getting into heaven. And then we get the Knight of Swords, things happening quickly. So I do think he's being given medicines with the Six of Pentacles here because of something that happened, some new information that came to light uh, probably during that weekend that he disappeared. I think they probably found things to indicate that he has been having strokes, and now they're playing catch up with trying to keep up with all of his medical issues. I think, he's very much been informed, the seed's been planted that he needs to be careful. That message was sent. And for a while, I think he followed through with that. I think he goes against medical advice, though, at some point. Uh, I think the Nine of Pentacles actually here because of greed. And then they're on plan C, D, E, F. Who knows? Definitely some cognitive decline. And he's definitely thinking that he doesn't have a lot of time left. And underneath, yeah, we get the World card, which is about completion. His life cycle is about complete. This is another card that keeps popping up. And the Tower, I think this is kind of the big moment. Like it takes people by surprise because it's not like, he's in the hospital sick for a long time. It's not like that at all. It's like boom, dead. That's what I've been getting. And then we get the victory card. This is our victory, and it's inevitable that it happens. Now, when I say our victory, I just mean that that's kind of the wish fulfilled, right? Is that he's no longer with us. So, okay, well, does he have Bell's palsy? So, you guys are always welcome to email me with questions. This is an interesting one because that does make a lot of sense to me that there's certain, yeah, there's a new beginning here. There's certain parts of his body that don't move right anymore. Um, does he have Bell's palsy? And then we'll look at balance issues, and then things are worse in the evening, which I think they are. Get the judgment card. And the Five of Swords again. And the Four of Cups. This is this like ugh, type of feeling. It's like really the apathy card, but it gives me more of just a discontent type feeling. And we get lost with the Five of Cups. I think this might be on the mark here. The Nine of Swords, anxiety. I think it does cause him anxiety that he can't move certain parts of his body well. I think in particular, there's some facial muscles that he can't move at all. And they've been hiding that. There's definitely something going on behind the scenes that we don't know about here. And uh, the King of Wands. This is how he used to see himself, right? Is the King of Wands type of energy, which is somebody who's, kind of really quite elegant, seen as charismatic. Now, none of us saw him that way, but that's how he saw himself. And I think that's dissipating. And things are moving forward in a way that's not very helpful with the Page of Swords here. So again, I think he's kind of being, a little bit mad and anxious that, you know, things are so tenuous. Um, I think the fact that he fears people don't see him the same way that he used to see himself causes him, a little bit of anxiety or restlessness is probably a better word, which leads to this just like ugh type of feeling. And again, there's definite cognitive decline here. There's no doubt about that there's cognitive decline. And we get loss, and then we get moving forward. And I think people behind the scenes are already planning on this happening. So does he have Bell's palsy? That was the question. Let's just underneath here. Get the Queen of Swords, the Seven of Pentacles, and the Knight of Swords again. I think that's on the right track. I think having strokes, Bell's palsy, they're all on the right track. It could just be symptoms that are similar to Bell's palsy. I don't know that it's exactly Bell's palsy. Um, but yeah. Okay. So these balance issues, balance issues. Now we saw him zigzag down the red carpet, but that's not the balance type of issues I'm talking about. I'm talking about whether he can actually stand without a podium in front of him at any point in time. Now, I think there are parts of the days where he can, but I don't think it's something that he can always do. Um, at least not safely. Like he has to, like he feels more comfortable holding on to something. Having balance issues. Balance issues. Having balance issues. quite right. You get the four of swords in the water. I think um I think he's seated most of the time when people are around. Now there are the times where he's does the things on the lawn and walks from here and there, but I think they're carefully scripted, and there's always somebody by his side. Yeah, again, one plan doesn't work, try another. They can't seem to address the situation. It's like trying to walk blindfolded. Now, when you're young, that's pretty easy to do. Um, when you get older, it's a little bit trickier, right? That's what it feels like. It's like, especially if you were to try to, close your eyes and go down a set of stairs, like that's something, don't do it, by the way. I'm not suggesting that you try. That's what it feels like, is my point. Is it feels like, we're searching for the ground with our feet. Like the next step, it isn't clear where the ground hits because his like the senses in his feet aren't there. I don't know if he's got like a bunch of neuropathy in his feet, perhaps, um, that's making him not able to sense where the ground is. That's why standing still is probably okay. And walking with somebody next to him is probably okay because he's got a visual reference of where the ground is. Um, versus walking with your head up, I think that's really hard for him. Um, the Knight of Swords, again, he's quickly deteriorating. The Seven of Wands, very defensive, doesn't want to talk about these things. It's almost inevitable that he's going to fall at some point. Just a question of when. And the Queen of Pentacles, uh, there's some stability here, but it comes and it goes, is what it feels like. The Six of Cups, thinking about the next generation. And we get the Moon card, things coming to the surface. This is eventually going to come to light that he's having issues. Um, I think we should probably, it's hard to pay attention to him because it's just so hard to listen to anything he says, but I'm curious if we see him like walking in open without somebody next to him anytime soon. I feel like we won't see that ever again. And we get the Four of Wands celebrations. The truth that people are going to gloat and celebrate when he goes. They just are. Is this good? Is this bad? I'll let you reserve judgment on that. Um, so I think the doctors are trying to address this, but I think it's inevitable that he falls. I think when he falls, that is the end, and that's why we're getting the celebration card. And I think he's contemplating his, family. Um, he's a horrible human being, but he still thinks about his family. Um, it's inevitable that eventually they're not going to be able to keep up with everything that's wrong with him. It very much feels like when he's walking, like he can't sense where the ground is. I don't know if that has a name. But it's like, if the steps weren't the same height, we'd all have that problem, right? So imagine going up or down a set of stairs where the distance between each step was a different distance. Our bodies wouldn't know how to react to that. It feels very much like that. He's quite defensive about this. We're gonna find all of this stuff out. I feel like we find it out later, though. I don't know that we find out about this before the actual event happens. Um, we get the Chariot card, erratic movement, right? That's what we're talking about. He's having balance issues. His movement is erratic. And then we get the Five of Pentacles, which is about loss, the loss of his health. And we get messages coming forward about his health. Then we get the Hierophant, which is about, the church, the Pope, the courts, the higher self, spirituality, the stairway to heaven. Here's what I'm being drawn towards. Not that he's going there. I'm not saying that. Uh, I do think that's like a death representation, and walking away from things that don't serve us. I think eventually the body just gives out. Okay. So are these things worse in the evening? That I think is the $64 question, as we used to say. Are these things worse in the evening? These things worse in the evening. I think his cognitive decline is worse in the evening. I think that actually explains a lot of things on why there's not a lot of evening stuff on the agenda. It's worse in the evening. Balance worse in the evening. Its cognitive decline is it worse in the evening. It is a weird sensation in my feet. Like it's like you can't feel the bottom of your feet. Um, I've never felt this before. Um, Kind of like, how like if you've had a long day and you've been particularly walking around on like concrete and maybe not wearing the best shoes, how your feet can kind of ache at the end of the day. Um, it's like that, but it's like the feet are, I guess it's kind of like your feet feel asleep. Like, how like, the circulation gets cut off and your arm falls asleep, your leg falls asleep. That's how we talk about it. But it's like that all the time. Um, which I imagine would be really hard to move with it like that. Yeah, I think it's a lot worse in the evening. Not sure why that would be, but whether it's just exhaustion or whatnot. Yeah, the moon, the nighttime reference here. I think that's just a confirmation that that's right. Things going on behind the scenes with the high priestess. There's definitely things people don't know about, and I think they're happening in the evening. Um, Again, we get the celebration card. This is what I've always seen happens after it's announced that he's gone, is that people go to the streets and celebrate. Um, the two pentacles, this makes me think that does happen in a hotel, possibly overseas. Fiery messages, the Page of Wands. They will be denying everything up until the fact that they can't deny it anymore because he's dead. That's just the way things are going to go. But we get this new start, and with the Fool card, yeah, in the evenings, I think they've got him under wraps in the evenings. They're trying to keep him very limited, or they're making sure that he's really well rested if he has to do something in the evening. Um, yeah, walking away from things that don't serve us, which is being out and about in the evening. And then we get the Queen of Wands. Yeah, so I think nighttime things are worse. It's like his feet almost feel like they're on fire. And, there's just nothing they can do about it. Um, I think he feels very trapped. I think they're keeping him confined in the evenings to keep this hidden. I think he's on board with that because of ego issues, but it does feel like, this is what essentially the fall, although I think the stroke would have killed him anyhow, but like a fall is what I think it does it at the end, and that's what leads to the celebration. Um, we also get this falling reference here with the Fool card, is where the newness starts. Um, Definitely things going on behind the scenes here. Does kind of feel like this handle happens when he's juggling a lot. Like he has like a really long day, possibly he's overseas, and that's when this all happens. Um, when we get walking away from things that don't serve us. So uh, I think they're delusional that they think that we haven't caught on yet. We get new beginnings, abuse of power, and the card for the presidency, followed by judgment and the star card, which is our card for protection for us and hope. And the hanged man, we're really just waiting. Unlikely partnerships. Here's the four of swords I was seeing in the water. He's just not well. I don't think he sleeps well either. He's just quite ill. So when does this all happen? Is it gonna be soon? Gonna be soon. Gonna be soon. Gonna be soon. What can you tell us about his overall picture between now and say Halloween? Give ourselves a decent time frame here. I sure feel like it's soon. Don't think it goes to Halloween. Although the images were fall decorations were the key, but somebody was buying them, which would mean you probably buying them before the event. So people it did feel like it was like kind of tablescape decorations. I guess it could technically be in November, but I think so. So fall, of course, ends in December. Hasn't started yet. First day of fall is on the 21st, right? Or 22nd of this month. This happens soon. Let's see here. I'm gonna do this kind of different. This doesn't feel right. So this is just a deck with all major arcanas. Let's just throw out 6 for the next 6 weeks. And then we'll clarify. This is health over the next 6 weeks. It's health over the next 6 weeks. This is just several decks. The light seers, I had like 5 of them because the humidity makes them start to peel. So I just took the major arcanas out for as an example for the tarot class that I'm doing on Patreon, which is going to open again, by the way. So if you're interested in that, just keep notes. I'll give you plenty of warning before I start it again. Okay. But some people can just read with major arcana. It's kind of what we're going to do. But next 6 weeks, show us 6 weeks. So the week, I guess, we're starting in the 15th is Monday, right? So we'll include this week with that. Let me pull up a calendar here so I don't get the days wrong. Okay. Okay, show me. Show me. That one over the next 6 weeks. Sure feels like the right time frame. Well, this week and the week of the 15th, the rest of this week, I should say, the week of the 15th. It's only 2 days left in this week because I'm going to release this on Saturday. I'm actually recording it on Friday. The world is the completion card, the life cycle being completed. Yeah. And then the week of the 22nd, we get death. Yeah. And then we get isolation, being alone, the hermit card in the third week, which is the 29th. And then October 6th, we get temperance. This is the card for after death. Or it's the card that follows death. Death is number 13, temperance is number 14. We get the wheel of fortune and then judgment. These are all really pretty death representations, right? It's like, okay, the life cycle completes, we get death, we get this moment of reflection, then we're here after death, and this is kind of like the how are things going to go, and then we get judgment. Underneath, we have temperance again, which is card after death. So it does feel like this is right. So I'm going to use this deck here. Does he go in the 6 week period? Go in the 6 week period. Go in the 6 week period. Like I say, it's going to be sudden. It's not going to be, something we're going to know about. Like, it's not going to be like Pope Francis. It's gonna be sudden. I'm worried about King Charles as well, by the way. Do a reading on that later. I think he goes relatively in the same time frame. Just right. So you go on the 6 week period. Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's a new beginning, the full card. I think he just goes against medical advice. That's kind of why it happens and the way that it happens. Um, so he doesn't take some of the medicines he's been told to take. Then we get a message about his health. He does have really good health care. Then the two of cups, partnerships, but it's also the medical symbol there. Yeah, and then death. Uh, I don't like to really be specific with time frames because it always makes me worried, but this one we've been talking about this time frame, this timeline for ever. I don't think timelines change, by the way. Um, yeah, this feels right. It feels right. Yeah. We shall see. I could be right. I could be wrong. This is just a tarot reading, so please don't make financial or health decisions based on my readings. But this feels right, and I mean, death doesn't take his medicine. Death makes sense to me. So, all right, I'll be back with another reading soon.